So as someone who has filmed a bunch of weddings over the past 5 to 6 years, and most of them being solo, I figured I'd jump on here and give you guys some tips on how to shoot better weddings solo and just how to overall be a little bit more prepared when you're going into these wedding days. Number one should come as no surprise, and that is be prepared. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to be prepared when you're going into a wedding day. It's so unpredictable as is, and the more you know about the day, the easier it's going to be for you during the day to film everything and capture everything that they want. It's as simple as like reaching out a few days before and say, hey, have you added anything new to the timeline? Have you guys decided to do a first look? Have you decided to add an extra portrait session? Do you guys want to do sunset photography? Do you want to do anything really? You'd be surprised how many things happen last minute that you would never expect, that they don't even write on the timeline, but trust me, it happens all the time. And this also goes for talking to the other vendors. Like if you need an audio hookup for the DJ, try and reach out to them prior to it so that you have the right hookups, or see if they have the hookups. It's much easier to find out a couple days prior than find out on the day of that the DJ won't let you hook up to the system. Wedding days are completely unpredictable. Something's going to change at some point, and you just have to be prepared. You have to be ready. You have to be thinking ahead, like, okay, what happens if we run outside for a second? What happens if we're inside for a second? What happens if they change the lighting on me really quick? Anything and everything that can happen will happen at some point when you do weddings. I couldn't tell you how many times I've thought I've seen it all and something crazy happens. Number two, the magic happens during the portrait sessions for these wedding videos. Portrait sessions sometimes can be an hour long. Sometimes they might be 15 minutes. These are your bread and butter, and you're gonna wanna lean on these heavy when you're doing your edits. I recommend filming all portrait sessions in slow-mo, just because you can get a couple extra seconds out of each pose. I also always film portrait sessions on a 24-70, and that brings me to my next point, which is zooms are your best friend during a wedding day. I know everybody loves primes, everybody loves that beautiful bouquet that you get in the background, but I'm telling you right now, as someone who's done a ton of events, a ton of weddings, the last thing you want is to be caught on an 85mm or a 35mm when you need to be closer or you need to be further away, because things happen fast, especially during receptions. They just want to get a quick picture and you want to capture that, but if you're on an 85, you can't capture the wideness of a big group of people. Having zoom lenses and relying on them for the most of the day is one of the biggest tips that I can give people, because I'm telling you, you'll get caught having the wrong lens on your camera at the wrong time. Now, if you are into primes, it doesn't mean you can't use them. I typically pick and choose my spots where I'm going to use these primes. If I know like the reception has started and dancing has started, then I know I can jump on a 35, and if I'm close up to all the action, I'm most likely going to be able to get everything. Now, number four is having a backup camera. I know this sucks for some people, like the budget isn't always there to have a nice camera. Even if it's not a great camera, even if it's a much cheaper camera, having something that can back you up if something were to happen to your main camera body, the last thing you want to have is to be in the middle of something important and your camera shuts down and you have no way to capture that moment after you've been paid to come do this. And what that also allows you to do is to get backup shots, or just what we call safe shots. Something that is just wide, or it's just capturing everything that's happening. You just hit record and you just let it go. I do that a lot in ceremonies. I do that a lot during speeches. I do that a lot during dances. So you always have just a safe shot that you can go back to. Or if something were to happen to your camera, it's still recording and you have everything that you need from that moment, because these moments only happen once. Now, number five, and probably one of the most important parts of having a smooth and enjoyable wedding filming experience, is talking and communicating with your photographers. So I always like to make sure I introduce myself to the photographers, and one of the first things I do is I always ask them how they like photographing. I always ask them, like, are you a prime shooter or are you a zoom shooter? So I'm always trying to make sure that I'm communicating how I like to film things, or if like a moment's happening, say a first look, I'm gonna say, hey, how do you plan to photograph this? Because this is how I wanna do it. And can we work out some way where we can both get the shot that we want at the same time? There's usually no pushback when you're just communicating with the photographer, that you guys can both get the shot. But one thing is for sure, if you're not trying to communicate or trying to work with the photographer, your day can turn into an absolute shit show very fast. If you're interested in having me go a little bit more in depth into how I shoot weddings, like very specific things, I would absolutely love to do that. I myself am starting to get out of doing weddings just because I have kids and I like to have my weekends back, and I've had a lot of fun with weddings. I can tell anyone who wants to learn how to do video very quickly and learn your camera settings, weddings is the way to do it. So if you have any questions at all about weddings or any other type of video content, please feel free to reach out, and I'll see you guys next time.